you will find over 50 different roller coasters in the beautiful state of Pennsylvania. And here are my top 10 recommended ones that you need to go ride, followed by a prediction on which park could be building the next coaster in Pennsylvania and what type it will be. Coming in at number 10 also happens to be the newest coaster that you're going to find in the great state of Pennsylvania, and that is Iron Menace, which also happens to be the state's only true dive coaster, standing at a height of 160 feet and featuring a 95-degree drop. Iron Menace is one great looking coaster, and I've been on pretty much every single coaster in Pennsylvania except this one, but judging by the layout and the ride experience, I think this is definitely going to be in the top 10 best coasters in the state. That is why I have it at number 10, because the drop's awesome, followed by 4 inversions, and dive coasters are so much fun to ride anyways, especially when you ride on the outside seat. And mix that in with the great theming that Dorney Park added into this ride, this coaster is a must ride for all of us. And not to mention, but this is America's only dive coaster where it's straight out. Basically, what I mean is as soon as you go up the lift hill, the drop is right there. You don't go around the 180-degree turn to go to the drop. It's like action-packed, and I really do like that. And walking up to this ride is going to be really cool perspective, seeing it dominating that corner of the park. So that is why Iron Menace, a B&M dive coaster, is the 10th best coaster, or at least the 10th coaster that I recommend you riding in Pennsylvania. Now, this next coaster opened up in 1999, and while not everyone seems to love this ride, I really do. I really appreciate the laterals that this coaster offers, as well as the very unique layout that this one and only ride that can be found at Knoebels features. And standing at a height of 101 feet tall with speeds of 51 miles an hour is Twister. And this coaster really is fantastic, especially at night. This layout is filled with so many unique twists and turns that you really don't normally find on a wooden coaster, especially the 2 lift hills. It's just so unique, and there's some decent pops of airtime, but really what this coaster really does specialize in is the laterals. Also, you have a great mid-course double helix, which is always fantastic, but the more I ride this coaster, the more I really do enjoy it. I still feel like there's one better coaster at Knoebels, and more on that soon, but for now, Twister is definitely a must ride in PA. Number 8 is Ravine Flyer 2, and this Gravity Group wooden coaster is just wild, because not only does this ride feature a great first drop that overlooks beautiful Lake Erie, but did you know that this coaster actually travels over a major city road? Yes, Ravine Flyer 2 might just offer one of the most unique layouts for any coaster in America, and this ride is phenomenal from start to finish. You're talking great airtime, great tunnels, great laterals. You will also encounter a 90-degree turn. Overall, the 2,900 foot long wooden coaster really is fantastic and one of the best in the entire country. Now, here's a crazy stat about Ravine Flyer that I just love, and that would be the height of the lift hills only 80 feet according to RCDB. However, the drop is 118 feet. Now, anytime a wooden coaster or a coaster features stats like that, you know that there's something special about the ride. Heading back to Knoebels for number 7, and while this might be a shocker for some, I love the Phoenix, but I do feel like there's other coasters in Pennsylvania that are better rides overall that you should ride before you ride the Phoenix. But with that said, this 78 foot tall wooden coaster features speeds of 45 miles an hour, a ton of different airtime elements, and a great tunnel that leads you into the lift hill. Now, speaking from experience, there's Phoenix during the day, and then there's Phoenix at night. If you ride it at night, it's a completely different experience, and it's a top 10, top 20 coaster in the country. It is so good, at least wood coaster wise. But daytime is still great, but that nighttime ride is what it's all about. I also recommend riding in the row 3, which is in the very first car. There's 3 rows per car, and that row 3 is the magic seat. That is where you get the best airtime, and I'm telling you, Phoenix, it's just the airtime, the floater is just phenomenal. So, and it's very smooth too. So if you are looking for a great smooth wooden coaster, then you have to come to Knoebels, which happens to be a top 5 park for me I love Knoebels, but Phoenix is phenomenal. Make sure you go ride it. Pennsylvania is also known as the hypercoaster capital of the world because you're going to find a bunch of different coasters that stands over the height of 200 feet. And Steel Force at Dorney Park really is a great ride. That is, if you enjoy large drops, a ton of airtime moments, and a great high-speed helix. Because Steel Force really is one of the best coasters at Dorney Park. And that's a great thing about Dorney is they really don't have a bad coaster at all. And every type of coaster that they have there is very re-rideable and enjoyable. Now, I have been riding Steel Force for around 20 years now. And after my most recent trip back in July, I just really fell in love with this ride. It was running so good last year, and I love everything about it. The airtime, the speed, the tunnels, the location of it. And for me, it's all about that helix, how it hugs the terrain. Overall, this is a fantastic coaster, and again, just like Phoenix, it's really good at night, especially during Halloween Haunt with all the fog in the park and the haunted houses. Make sure you go ride Steel Force because it's one of the most underrated coasters, not only in PA, but in my opinion, all of America. Pennsylvania's newest hypercoaster is located at Hersheypark, and it opened up in 2020. And Candymonium really is a solid ride from start to finish. It's one of the better B&M hypercoasters out there. It's not quite as good as Diamondback and Mako, but it really is a top tier, in my opinion, of a B&M hypercoaster. You have a 210 foot tall lift hill, a whole track length of 4,636 feet long, and speeds of 76 miles an hour. Candymonium is all about the great floater airtime, some mild ejector airtime, and just a great overbank turn. And I really like the ending, how it kind of interacts with the main entrance of the park and the Hershey Kiss fountain. TPR tip: when you visit Hersheypark, typically this coaster always has a very long line when the park first opens because it's the first ride that people see. So if you're not there before park opening, like get in the park right as it opens, go ride it. If not, wait till later in the day, about 4 o'clock. This coaster should be a very minimal wait for it, but Candymonium is fantastic. It's such a good ride. It's a very enjoyable ride, and night rides are great because it's located basically away from the rest of the park, and it's very dark where this coaster is located. Now for one of my favorite coasters from Intamin. Opening at Hersheypark in 2004 is Storm Runner, and this Intamin accelerator coaster really is pedal to the metal. This launch is so intense, and the 2,600 foot long coaster features 3 inversions, a top hat that stands at a height of 150 feet, but offers a 180 foot drop after the top hat. But for me, the main highlight of Storm Runner has to be the flying snake dive element. This element, it's really a shame that there really isn't many of these elements on any other coaster out there, but it's so much fun, especially in the very front and the very back row. The way the train rotates as you're so high really is just phenomenal. Then the way the train drops out of the inversion element is even better. Overall, Storm Runner is one of the best launch coasters in the entire world, as well as offering one of the best launches when you go from 0 to 75 miles an hour in just 2 seconds. Now, before we get to the top 3 coasters in Pennsylvania, if you're enjoying this video, then all I ask that you do is please give it a like. That is by far the best way you can help support the channel, Theme Park Recommendations, and I really do appreciate each one. Coming in at number 3 might just feature the wildest story for any coaster in Pennsylvania, and that is Phantom's Revenge. This coaster originally opened up in 1991. It was built by Aerodynamics, and at the time of opening it featured 4 inversions. However, during the off-season of the year 2000 and 2001, Morgan was brought in to make some modifications to the trains and the layout, and I gotta say, I think everyone is thankful for that because now Phantom's Revenge is a top tier roller coaster that offers 2 amazing drops and some great airtime moments. I'm talking airtime that you're out of your seat and it's just a little lap bar that holds you in the train. It is absolutely wild. But the main highlight for Phantom's Revenge is obviously the epic second drop. This drop, as you travel down the ravine and you go through Thunderbolt support structure, really is a thing of beauty. And then after that, it's all about the airtime. Phantom's Revenge really needs to be talked about more in my opinion, just because this coaster, for any thrill seeker, it's a bucket list ride and you have to go ride it. Number 2 is Wildcat's Revenge, which happens to be Hersheypark's newest coaster and one of their better ones. When Hersheypark brought in RMC to convert their old Wildcat wooden coaster into a new hybrid coaster, I really think RMC went above and beyond with this layout and what it does, because not only does this coaster feature what I think is the best pre-drop element on any coaster at all when we're talking about RMC, but I love the first drop and the stall as well as the wave turn, but especially the 0G roll that travels right over the lift hill. Wildcat's Revenge is a fantastic coaster from start to finish, and it could very well be a lot of people's favorite coaster in all of Pennsylvania, but I just feel like from the drop to the brakes, it is so good, and the trains are comfortable, and you get that RMC ejector airtime. But I still feel like there's one more coaster out there that is better, and that is located about 2 football fields away, and we have SkyRush, which is an intimate hypercoaster that stands at a height of 200 feet and features speeds of 75 miles an hour. And while SkyRush might just be the shortest length coaster on this list that's over 200 feet tall, this layout is phenomenal. And if you really love ejector airtime and an intense roller coaster, then SkyRush is the perfect ride for you, because it's all about that 85-degree drop as you twist to your right as the train enters the first airtime hill. Like, sitting in the back row on the outside seat is just pure bliss. It's phenomenal. And I love SkyRush before the new trains. I have not been on it since they've added new trains, but I just know the ride experience is even better now. And SkyRush, from the main 2 airtime hills to, as well as to the Stangle Dive element and the other airtime hills, it's just a fantastic coaster that really is pure insanity from start to finish. And it's honestly one of the wildest coasters in the world. And if you have not been to Hersheypark to ride SkyRush yet, then I have to ask you, what are you waiting for? Because this ride really is fantastic, and again is a must ride. Now, before I share with you my prediction, there is one more coaster that would be on this top 10 list, but for now we really don't know too much about the future of it, and that is Steel Curtain at Kennywood, which opened up not too long ago, 2019 to be exact, and stands at a height of 220 feet and features 8 inversions according to RCDB. But sadly, this coaster has been down more than it has been up, and it barely opened in 2023, and now Kennywood announced that it's not going to open up at all in 2024 because they are working with the manufacturer as well as other companies apparently to fix the ride and apparently add or fix some supports for the coaster. And I've been lucky enough to ride Steel Curtain multiple times, and I gotta say, I love it. This ride is fantastic. It would definitely be in the top 5 in Pennsylvania, but unfortunately, since it is standing but not operating and we have no idea when it's going to reopen, it is not going to be on this top 10 list for now. And now, as far as my prediction goes, well, it's very interesting because I could very well see Hersheypark being the park that's going to add the next coaster in Pennsylvania. We already know that Dorney Park's not going to follow up Iron Menace anytime soon. And we have no word out of Knoebels when it comes to a new coaster, which leaves us with Waldameer, Kennywood, and Hershey. But if Hershey doesn't, then I do think Kennywood has a chance of opening up a new coaster. And here's a wild, crazy idea, and I might make a full-length video on it, but what if we would see Steel Curtain get modified to feature a different layout and remove some of the inversions to make this coaster more reliable? And they can market it as a new ride, and obviously if any park could do this, it's Kennywood, because they did the same thing again with Steel Phantom when they converted it to Phantom's Revenge. And with the lift hill of 220 feet tall and a whole ravine located behind this coaster, the possibilities are really endless. Now do me a favor, do not visit your next theme park without learning about these must-know tips that are really going to benefit you throughout your day. And you can see the link to this video in the bottom of your screen. So that is how I rank the top 10 recommended coasters that you need to go ride in Pennsylvania. Now I want to know, which ones have you been on and which ones are you looking forward to riding the most? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.